July 21, 1944. Auschwitz 1. An SS officer strides toward the front gate, pressed uniform, polished boots, and forged papers in hand. 2 paces behind him, a Jewish prisoner walks with her eyes to the ground. The guard ahead straightens and reaches for the pass. That SS officer is prisoner 243, a clerk, a man who survived 4 years in the deadliest place on earth by staying invisible. If the guard looks twice, she dies within an hour. He died within 2 hours. But here's what makes this insane. He didn't have to be here. After 4 years, he had the one thing almost no one in Auschwitz had a way to keep breathing: a safe job, a reason to survive. He threw it all away for a woman he'd met 6 months earlier, exchanging stolen sentences across a grain warehouse, where speaking to her was punishable by death. To save her, he spent 7 months stealing an SS uniform piece by piece, forged a German officer's signature from memory, and walked into enemy headquarters to claim her by name. 1 guard, 1 pass, and 1 wrong glance away from death. How did prisoner 243 bluff his way out? And what did surviving truly cost them both? Jerzy Bielecki is 19 years old in the spring of 1940. He is the son of a small Polish family from the village of Słaboszów, north of Krakow. He has finished secondary school. He speaks German fluently. He has just decided to cross the southern border on foot, reach Hungary, and from there make his way to France to join the reconstituted Polish army. He does not get there. He is arrested by a German patrol near the border. He is held for interrogation. The Germans, who have just begun systematizing the deportation of Polish men they suspect of resistance activity, do not believe a 19-year-old crossing the border alone is doing so to enlist. They classify him as a resistance fighter. They send him to a new concentration camp the SS has just opened in a former Polish army barracks at a town called Auschwitz. The Germans call it Auschwitz. On the 14th of June 1940, the first transport of prisoners arrives at the camp. There are 728 Polish men in it. Jerzy Bielecki is one of them. He is tattooed on his left forearm with number 243. He is, by accident, one of the first 100 human beings ever processed through Auschwitz. The camp at that time is not yet what it will become. It is a prison for Polish political detainees. The gas chambers do not yet exist. The mass deportations of European Jews have not yet begun. The men of the first transports work clearing the barracks, building new ones, and dying on the work details from beating and exhaustion. Bielecki should die in the first 6 months. Most of the first transport does. He does not die because of one thing: he speaks German. Within his first year, he is moved off the killing labor details and placed in the grain warehouse Getreidespeicher, where the camp's food supplies are processed and inventoried. The work is indoors. The kapos are less violent. The rations are slightly larger. The position requires literacy in German and competent clerical work. It is, by Auschwitz standards, safety. By 1944, Bielecki has been a prisoner for 4 years. He is 23. He has survived longer than almost any other man on the first transport. He has watched the camp evolve around him into the largest extermination complex in human history. He has seen the construction of Birkenau, the building of the 4 crematoria, the daily arrival of the trains. He has, by any measure that matters in Auschwitz, won. In the spring of 1944, a new batch of women prisoners is assigned to work in the grain warehouse. They are housed in the women's section of Birkenau and marched each morning. The men are forbidden to speak to them on penalty of death. One of the women is Cyla Cybulska. She is 22 years old. She is from a small town called Łomża in northeastern Poland. She was deported in January 1943, along with her mother, father, 2 brothers, and sister. They were sent to Birkenau. She was the only one selected for labor. The rest of her family was gassed within hours of arrival. She has been at Birkenau for 18 months when she was assigned to the grain warehouse. She is the only person in her family who is still alive. She knows she is going to die. She is waiting for the selection that will send her to the gas chamber. It is a matter of time. Bielecki sees her on her first morning in the warehouse. He cannot speak to her. He looks at her across the burlap sacks. She looks back. Over the following weeks, they stole a few sentences a day. Where are you from? What was your town called? Did you have brothers? whispering behind grain sacks in the seconds between one capo's back turning and the next, hidden behind grain stacks. They learn each other's names. They learn about each other's hometowns. They learn about each other's families. They fall in love. There is no other word for it. Two people inside a death camp, both in their 20s, both with no one else left in the world. Bielecki decides, but he has not told her about it for several weeks. He is going to get her out. He does not yet know how. He knows that in 4 years he has watched perhaps 150 men attempt to escape from Auschwitz. He knows that almost all of them ended up hanging from a beam at the front of the camp for the morning roll call. Can a prisoner steal an SS uniform from inside Auschwitz one piece at a time? And how do you plan the kind of escape nobody in the camp's history has ever survived? The decision is taken in January 1944. The escape takes 7 months to build. The first problem is the uniform. A full SS Rottenführer's uniform consists of a tunic, breeches, boots, a leather belt with shoulder strap, a service cap, a holster, a sidearm, and the rank insignia for the appropriate grade. It is impossible for any prisoner to acquire even one of these items legally. In practice, it is almost impossible to acquire any of them at all. But the camp has at its center an SS clothing depot. The depot receives, repairs, and reissues uniforms. It is staffed by SS personnel and a small number of trusted prisoners. One of those trusted prisoners is Tadeusz Srogi. Srogi was on the first transport with Bielecki, number 168. They survived the first winter together. They had buried friends together. Bielecki trusts Srogi the way no man outside Auschwitz can imagine trusting anyone. He recruits him. Recruiting Srogi is the first capital crime of the operation. If Srogi panics, or breaks under interrogation, or simply gets drunk one evening, Bielecki dies. Srogi does not break. Over the next 6 months, Srogi steals the uniform piece by piece. He takes a tunic from a uniform marked for repair. He takes breeches from a damaged set scheduled for incineration. He takes boots are the hardest because every prisoner has bare feet and a missing pair of SS boots will be looked for. He takes a service cap. He takes a holster. The pieces are smuggled to Bielecki one at a time, hidden in deliveries to the grain warehouse. Bielecki stores them in the attic above the warehouse, in a space he has hollowed out behind a row of grain sacks. The second problem is the document. The camp uses a printed form called the Ausweis, an exit pass, for the small number of authorized prisoner transfers, work detail movements, and intercamp escorts that legitimately leave the perimeter. The form is green. It is printed by an SS administrative office. It is filled out by hand, stamped, and signed by the issuing officer. Bielecki, through a contact in the camp administrative office, acquires a blank form. He spends 3 weeks practicing the handwriting of a specific SS officer whose signature he has memorized from camp documents that cross his desk. He practices stamping. He fills the form out in pencil first, then in ink. The pass authorizes an SS Rottenführer to escort prisoner 29558 to Auschwitz I for further interrogation. He memorizes every word on it. The third problem is Cyla. In May 1944, Cyla is transferred out of the Birkenau women's barracks and into the Stabsgebäude, the SS administration building at Auschwitz I. She has been selected for clerical work. The conditions are slightly better. The food is slightly better. She is now housed inside the headquarters building of the camp she is trying to escape from. This is operationally the worst possible development. To extract her, Bielecki will now have to walk into the SS's own command building, present himself as an officer, and requisition her by name from the staff who work alongside her every day. He adjusts the plan. He memorizes the building's layout from descriptions Cyla passes to him through their continued whispered exchanges. He memorizes the names of the duty officers. He picks up a day and an hour when the senior staff he might encounter are most likely to be in a coordination meeting on the other side of the building. The day he picks is July 21st, 1944. The fourth problem is what comes after the gate. Bielecki has memorized the road network of Upper Silesia. He has identified his uncle's house in Igołomia, near Krakow, as the first safe destination. He has hoarded civilian clothes, boots, a length of rope, 2 loaves of bread, and a small flask of water in the attic. He has been a prisoner for 4 years and 1 month. On the night of July 20th, 1944, he does not sleep. He sits in the attic of the grain warehouse with the uniform laid out on a sack and looks at it. Can a forged pass built in an attic hold up against a real SS checkpoint? And what happens if the duty officer makes one phone call to verify? July 21st, 1944, a Friday, Auschwitz 1. The sky is overcast. At 1:30 in the afternoon, Bielecki climbs into the attic of the grain warehouse. He removes his striped prisoner's uniform. He folds it. He places it under a sack. He puts on the SS uniform. The tunic fits, the breeches fit, the boots fit, the service cap fits, the holster sits at the correct angle. He adjusts the rank insignia of an SS Rottenführer at his collar. He puts on the dark sunglasses he has hoarded for a year. He looks at himself in a small piece of broken mirror Srogi gave him 3 months earlier. He is the enemy. He climbs down from the attic. He walks out of the warehouse. He crosses the gravel yard between the warehouse and the Stabsgebäude. A passing SS guard salutes him. He returns the salute. He enters the administration building through the main door. He walks down a corridor lined up with offices. He knows where he is going. He knows the door of the duty office. He knows the layout from Cyla's descriptions. He passes 2 SS personnel in the corridor. Neither looks at it twice. He enters the duty office. The duty officer is a junior SS man Bielecki has never seen. Bielecki presents the green pass. He says, in the flat Silesian German of a man who has said this 100 times, "I have orders to collect prisoner 29558 for interrogation. I need her now." The duty officer reads the pass. He looks up. There is one moment in which the entire operation could fail. The duty officer asks no questions. He logs the requisition in his book. He calls for the prisoner to be brought down. Cyla appears in the corridor under the escort. She sees Bielecki in the uniform. She does not flinch. She does not show recognition. She lowers her eyes the way every prisoner is required to lower her eyes in the presence of an SS officer. She stands in front of him. He signs the receipt for her. He turns. He walks out of the building. Cyla follows 2 paces behind him. They cross the gravel yard. They walk down the long path toward the perimeter checkpoint. Neither of them speaks. Bielecki keeps his eyes forward. Cyla keeps her eyes on the ground. The gravel under their feet is the only sound. At the checkpoint, an SS Unterscharführer is on duty, and when he sees them approach, he straightens and waits. Bielecki reaches the checkpoint and hands over the green pass. The Unterscharführer reads it, looks at the prisoner, looks back at the pass, then looks at Bielecki, and the next 10 seconds are the longest of their lives. He hands the pass back, raises the boom, and salutes. Bielecki returns the salute, walks through, and Cyla walks behind him. The pass holds, the bluff holds, the gate is open, they are out. They walk down the road that leads away from the camp for 40 minutes without speaking. The road empty and the sky overcast, the wire of Auschwitz receding behind them. The moment they are out of sight of the checkpoint, Bielecki turns off the road into a wheat field. He drops to his knees. He vomits. Cyla kneels beside him. She does not say anything. She does not touch him. She waits. When he can stand, he leads her into a cope of trees. He takes the SS tunic off. He takes the cap off. He puts on a civilian shirt he had been hoarding in a small canvas bag at the bottom of the attic. He bundles the uniform under a fallen log. He has just done what no prisoner before him has ever done. He has walked a Jewish woman out of the front gate of Auschwitz. He has also, in the same act, made them the 2 most wanted fugitives in the general government. In 2 hours, the evening roll call will discover Cyla missing from the Stabsgebäude. By midnight, his absence from the warehouse will be reported. By dawn, every patrol from Krakow to the Czech border will have descriptions of both. What does a prisoner do when the uniform that got him out makes him the most wanted man in the general government? And how do you disappear when the entire Reich is the prison? They walk only at night. By day, they hide. They sleep in wheat fields, in stands of birch, in the loft of an abandoned barn. They drink from streams. They eat what Bielecki had been able to hoard: 2 loaves of bread, a small wedge of cheese, a few raw potatoes pulled from farmland in the dark. They do not light fires. They do not enter villages. Bielecki has set a destination. His uncle's house in Igowomia a village near Krakow, is about 60 kilometers north of the camp. On a road in a car, the distance is 2 hours. On foot in a manhunt, hiding by day, it is 10 nights. Cyla begins to break on the 4th night. The terror she had held under control inside the camp, where breaking was death, now has space to surface. She has not eaten properly for 18 months. She has not walked more than a few kilometers a day in a year. Her feet bleed. She tells Bielecki she cannot go on. She tells him to leave her. She tells him she would rather die in the field than walk one more step. Bielecki sits with her in the dark. He does not tell her to be brave. He does not tell her they are almost there. He tells her, in a voice he will later describe as the calmest he ever found, that they made each other a promise inside the warehouse. They promised to live. They cannot break that promise now. He tells her he will carry her if she cannot walk. She gets up. They walk. They continue. The wheat fields become low hills. The hills become the river valley of the Vistula. They cross the river one night on a small footbridge that a German patrol has, for that night left unmanned. They reach the outskirts of Igołomia on the night of the 10th day. Bielecki goes to the house alone, in the dark, and knocks on the door of the cottage where his uncle lives. His uncle opens the door. He sees the nephew he had assumed was dead. He pulls him into the house. He brings Cyla in from the garden where Bielecki has left her. He feeds them. He gives them a bed. They slept for the first time in 11 days. Within a week, Bielecki has contacted the Polish underground. He places Cyla with a peasant family in a neighboring village for the Cherniks, who agree to shelter her as a distant niece who had been displaced by the war. The Cherniks are not told who she is. They are told only that her papers are missing and that she must not be seen by Germans. Then he tells her that he has been working out for several weeks. They cannot stay together. A young Polish-speaking couple matching the description of 2 Auschwitz escapees is the most conspicuous thing the underground could ask him to hide. Apart, they are 2 anonymous war refugees, of whom Poland in 1944 has millions. Together they are a target. He tells her he will join the Home Army. He will fight. When the war ends, he will come back for her. The war cannot last much longer. The Red Army is already in eastern Poland. By the spring of 1945 at the latest, this will all be over. She agrees. She does not cry. They make each other a second promise. Bielecki leaves Igołomia in early August 1944. He travels north to join a partisan unit operating in the forests near Krakow. He fights for the next 5 months sabotage, ambushes, the small actions of a Polish underground in its final year. He does not see Cyla again before the war ends. What happens when the war ends and he walks back through the snow to find her? And can a promise make inside Auschwitz survive everything that comes after? The Red Army takes Krakow on the 18th of January 1945. The Germans pull out. The roads are filled with refugees, freed prisoners, demobilized soldiers, and returning deportees. Communication is broken. Mail does not move. Telephones do not work. The war that has consumed 6 years and tens of millions of lives is finally, visibly ending. Bielecki, fighting with his partisan unit in the hills, hears the news on a clandestine radio. He leaves within hours. He walks south through the snow toward Igołomia. 25 miles, 2 days. He survived Auschwitz. He has survived the manhunt and 5 months of partisan warfare. He is walking back to the one thing he did all of it for. He arrives at the Chernik cottage on the 22nd of January 1945. He is 4 days too late. 3 weeks earlier, a partisan courier Cyla had never met had knocked on the cottage door with a message. The message said that Jerzy Bielecki had been killed in fighting near Krakow. The courier had a name, a date, a location. He was confident. He was wrong. There was probably another partisan, a similar name, a different unit, the kind of administrative confusion that the chaos of a collapsing war produces in the thousands. Historians who have examined the Bielecki papers cannot trace the exact origin of the error. What they know is its consequences. Cyla grieved for a week. Then she did what every survivor of Auschwitz had to do in those first weeks of liberation. She left. She walked to the nearest railway line. She boarded a train heading north toward Warsaw. On the train, she met a young Polish Jewish man named David Zakharowicz. who had survived the camps and lost his entire family. They talked for 3 days on that train with two people who had each lost everyone, trying to make sense of a world that had just finished trying to erase them. By the time they reached Warsaw, they had decided to leave Europe together. They married within months. They went first to Sweden, then to the United States. They settled in Brooklyn. David found work. They built a life on a quiet street in New York. They had children. She never spoke about the grain warehouse. She never spoke about the man in the SS uniform who had walked her through a gate. She believed, with the certainty given to her by a stranger at a cottage door, that he had been fighting in the winter snow. The story she lived inside was that he was gone. Bielecki, in Poland, was told by his uncle in early February that Cyla had left for Warsaw with another man. He did not look for her. He believed, with the certainty that comes from second-hand information in a broken country, that she had weighed her choices at the war's end and made one. He did not blame her. He married. He had children. He became a school principal. He wrote a memoir about escape, published in 1989. This is what the war actually stole from them. Not their lives, they had both outrun that. Not their youth that was already gone. What it stole was the thing the escape had been built to protect. The answer to the question that had driven every forged document, every piece of stolen uniform, every night in a wheat field. They had beaten the camp. They had beaten the manhunt. They had not beaten for 4 days and a misunderstanding. The gate had been an easy part. In May 1983, in an apartment in Brooklyn, Cyla Zakharowicz is talking to her Polish-born cleaning woman. The woman mentions a television documentary she recently watched about a Polish man who escaped from Auschwitz by disguising himself as an SS officer and walking a Jewish prisoner through the front gate. Cyla goes still. She sets down what she is holding and asks the name of the man. What was his name? The phone rings in Krakow. A man answers. She says his name, Jerzy, and he stops speaking in the middle of his greeting. It is the voice of a 62-year-old man who recognizes hers in the first 3 words. They talk for 90 minutes. She flies to Krakow the following spring. He meets her at the airport with 39 red roses, 1 for each year. He is in his 60s. She is in her 60s. They hold each other in the arrivals hall for a long time. 2 old people who each believed the other was dead, standing in an airport in the country that tried to kill them both. They drive to Igowomia. They walk to the Chernik cottage. They sit in the kitchen of his uncle's old house and talk until the light fades. And then, and this is the part that must be said plainly, without softening, they say goodbye again. She goes back to New York, back to her husband, her children, her grandchildren, the life she had built on a quiet street in Brooklyn. He stays in Poland, in the life he had built there. They speak by telephone for the rest of their lives. They visit each other when they can. They are never live together. They never get the life that the escape was supposed to make possible. Cyla Zakharowicz dies in 2005. Jerzy Bielecki dies in 2011. He is 89 years old. In the years before his death, Bielecki is named righteous among the nations by Yad Vashem, the highest recognition the State of Israel extends to non-Jews who risked their lives to save Jewish lives during the Holocaust. He is made an honorary citizen of Israel. He returns there once, an old man, to receive it. He is asked in interviews late in life whether he regrets what he gave up, whether the escape, the safety he abandoned, the 4 decades of separation, the life together they never had was worth it. The answer he gives is not the one the question expects. He does not say he regrets nothing. He does not say love conquers it all. He says something simpler and harder, that he put on that uniform so that she could become an old woman, that she did, that she had children, grandchildren, and a life in New York, and every year the gas chamber would have taken from her. That when he walked through that gate, he was not buying them a future together. He was buying her a future at all. He did not put on the enemy's skin to save himself. He did it so she would still be alive in 1983 to answer the phone. She was. If this story keeps you watching, there's another one that will do the same. An East German engineer decided that walls, watchtowers, and the entire apparatus of the Stasi were not sufficient reasons to stay, so he built a submarine in secret and used it to sail under the Iron Curtain. That video is on screen now.